Okay, it's time for me to start working on the bottom, the bottom of the casters here, and I'm trying to draw up some things this afternoon. Trying to draw up some ideas here. What I'm getting some ideas here is off a picture here of a caster, and I'm kind of like trying to just mimic that just a little bit as far as some inset milling here and stuff, and a little round over here and things like that. Trying to imitate that just a little bit to have just using this as a guide more or less. And so as I come to my program here, this is pretty much what I've come up with so far. Whoops. It looks like what I want to do is figure out the steps that I want to do to machine this. I want this here to be inset in here a little bit, and it got some angles here to cut and things, and I got to get some dimensions here before I can go any further. But I'm going to try to figure out the different steps that I need to take in order to get this. Do I drill this first and then do the machining? I'm not sure yet, so I'm just going to just look at this here, get the dimensions, and then start working on the steps, and then start actually doing the actual milling. I think since I already have my rotary table set up, I want to do the round over back here on one side. The back side back here will get the round over back here, and then the rest of it I'll try to figure out how I want to machine it. Okay, that's coming up. Okay, once again my rotary table is set back up in position underneath my spindle, and I'm using the drill bit that I used to drill and tap with into this here block, the bottom block. And I'm using that drill bit to line up my vise so I can tighten my vise down onto the rotary table again. And so now everything's located here, and I'm ready now to start doing some work on the back side of these here blocks. Okay, I just want to knock the corners off the back side. So again, I'm going to loosen my x-axis, and I'm going to bring this direction here, and then I'm going to bring my bit down, and I'm going to touch off on the back side only. When I'm touching off on the back side, then I will use that as the reference for knocking off the two back corners only. All I want to do is just round off here and round off here to give it that rounding profile on the back side, just like we showed in the video in that there picture that I showed before, where they had the round part in the back side, and then I will start working the angles from the back side this direction here. But right now, let's get this here backside corners taken care of. I have it all set up now, touching up the back corner, or back edge there. I touched off on the front here, on this corner, and I brought my gauge down to 150. I'm going to cut down to a depth of 150 on the back side here. And I'm going to take about maybe 10-20 thousandths at a time for starters here, just to see how this is holding up here, being tight in the vise, and we'll do it. Okay, we're getting that round profile back behind here now on the back side. It's looking nice. Okay, I'll keep on going with this now. Okay, there it is. It's the first one done to that point. And okay, got ball bearings here. Let's see if I can do this with holding the camera. Alrighty, there you go. Okay. So this part here, the round part, that's the back side. And then we'll eventually be milling some sort of feature angle. Well, first we'll be coming down this way, insetting that in so that we can put the wheel in here, and then we'll be tapering this way here to give it that profile. Okay, that looks pretty good. have to clear that screw back here. So I put another parallel on top like that. I now turn my rotary table to 80 degrees on one side here, and then I go down 50 thousandths at a time. Here's 50. Last 50 thousandths. Okay, that's the procedure that I'm using for this here. Okay, now let me show you what I've got going on here now. What I need to do is I need to I need to make a chamfer on the back edge here. The round area here, that is the back edge of the caster that carries the wheel. I need to make a chamfer from around this area here, from this corner here down across here. That angle is 52 degrees. That's what it came out to that after I drew it up and then I took a measurement of it, it came out to 52 degrees. So let me show you what I have set up on my setup here. I took a 30 degree, a 15 degree, a 5, and a 2. Which would give me my 52 degrees of taper here. And then I taped all four of the angles together. I taped them together to make them the one piece, and then I just temporarily taped them down to a 1, 2, 3 block. So what that's going to do is that's going to give me a setup now that a portable setup that I can take this to my vise on my milling table now, and I can set this up in my vise. It'll go this way here. In my vise, I can set this on there in my vise like that, and then I'll be able to use this to set the angle. I'll show you what I'm doing over here on my milling machine. Okay, the 1, 2, 3 block. The 1, 2, 3 block is the same height as the base of my vise, which makes it nice and convenient for me to be able to give it the support that it needs. So I set my 1, 2, 3 block. When the block hits the back of my vise, like that, tight to the back of my vise, then I know then that I have that gauge to be stopped there. So now I can take this piece here, the work piece, and I can lean it up onto there, and then I will bring this workpiece down until it is flush with my line. Let me get that line up here. Where the bottom corner here will be flush to the bottom here to give me another gauge reference. So when I'm set up there, I can now tighten this down. So what I have now is I have the back of the corner flush to the vise here, the top of the vise. I have this sitting tight against the against these here, this here fixture here set up. This is set up so that it makes a stop against here, so that when I'm tight against this and I got the corn down to here, then everything is registered. So I can just do all of them this way here now, and they'll all end up in the same place. Then what I'll do is I'll bring my bit down, and I'll get the height across here, and then I will lock my Z axis then, and then they'll all be the same way for all of them then. Okay, now I got that all set up. I can move this out of the way. And I'm now ready to set up to do the milling. Okay, I have the bit set up in there. I have everything tight here. I set my Z-axis. I have the a line lined up here that the bit will touch down here and come across. I brought it back up now so I can do some little bit of cutting at a time. But I have my stop set up here, my gauge set up. So I'm ready to start cutting now. Up and down about 10 thousandths at a time. Let's see what we get here. Just now touching. And down there 10 thou. About 20 thou this time. Okay. Okay, right down to my line where I need it. Very good. Okay. Let's do the rest of them now. All 7 more. Go. Okay, continue on with this here project for that welding table. We're moving down here now into the area of that there caster. And just yesterday I got the chamfer done on that. And we have them over here. All the chamfers are done. And so we got that part done. So now the next part will be to start working on the indentation here in the front. And I'll show you what that looks like on the picture here. Okay, so far we have the round part done. We have the chamfer done here. And there's an indentation on the front here where the wheel comes down, like a little line here of indentation. And so I'm going to take that in about 1/8 of an inch, and I have the pieces marked out over here as it is. I have a line marked off on the front there, and across the front this way here. Hard to hold on to these things when they're ball bearings here. And so what I'll do is I'll set up my mill machine again, and I'll start figuring out a way how I can machine that down now to get that indentation in there. And once I get that done, then it'll be a matter of drilling for the wheel axles. And that's coming up. Okay, what I'm going to use again, I'm going to use that pin that I made the last time. And I'm going to use that to set my workpiece like a parallel. And then I'll set that in my vise like that. I have the lines already drawn right here. I'm going to draw some lines in the front here too so I can see where I'm machining at to that point. Okay, use my 1, 2, 3 block as a gauge so they all end up the same place. That's my location. 1, 2, 3 blocks of location. And that's nice and solid. Now I can find the milling cutter that will work for this now. Okay, now set the depth of cut. Now I can only go over 250 thousandths of an inch in order to get that indentation on the front edge here. So I have my dial indicator set up here so I can go 250 thousandths of an inch, and then I'll stop and get the 100, 200, 50. Let's keep on dropping it down. Now I'm on the full depth, and I can unlock my x-axis and pull out carefully. And there you have it. Okay, now all I gotta do now is pull over to the other side here, touch off, and then come back over the 125 thou and do the same thing again, because I have my depth already set where I need that. I have this here set where I need to go back and forth to get me my my depth of cut this direction, and it's just a matter of just setting this here gauge now back over to get my after I touch off to get that 125 over on the x-axis. Come over that 125. Alright, everything's all set up again. There you go. Okay, there it is. I have it inset in with the milling. So now what I'll do is, the last procedure to do on this here will be to put the slot through there and then drill through there for the axle, for the wheel. And that'll be next on this here workpiece, the slot and the holes. This is what that looks now with the whole piece put together. Then I'll probably do a little chamfering back here too later on once I get everything cut. Then I'll just do some hand filing to get it all shaped in. Okay, I'll go ahead and cut the rest of them now, same way. Mill the rest of these here slots in here, these here recesses. That's next. Okay, now that we have all the recesses milled in all of these, it's now going to be time to set up in the mill vise again on the mill table and drill for 256 screws. That will be drilled on one side and tapped through the other side. I think what I'm going to use is I'm going to use the tap drill and tap through all the way first, and then cut the slot through for the wheel to go through, and then enlarge the hole later on as the last step. Okay, so right now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and get this set up in my mill for drilling. But then again, instead of doing a clearance hole on one side, I could just tap all the way through and then just use a screw that's threaded through on both sides of this to hold the wheel on. So we'll see whenever I get to that point how I'm going to do that. Okay, my parallel for the height. Take my workpiece. I'll keep that for the front edge here to reference off the front edge. A 1, 2, 3 block that we use to reference into the front edge like that. Keep everything nice and tight here. Okay. I can remove the parallel too. Nice and tight, nice and flush. Now I'll get an edge finder and get off the front edge here and then come back 1/8 of an inch to do the drilling. Okay, do the other 7 now. Okay, now it's time to mill down the slot down the center of the workpiece here. And this slot is going to be, I think, 170 some thousandths in width. I have to take a measurement of that again. And that will be the slot that will be needed to fit the wheel in between. And I think I'm going to go with maybe a 1/16 of an inch of where the wheel will. Okay, the full width is 300 thousandths. Okay, I'll pick up the edge here. Okay, I'll move it 100 thousandths now for the half the width, the diameter of the edge finder. And I'm going to go into the center of the workpiece and then work my way back this direction and that direction. So I'm going to need to go another 150 thou, and that'll get me on center of the workpiece. Okay, I have the x-axis locked. I'm in the center of the workpiece. I brought my depth down and got it set for on a gauge here for 360 some thousandths. I'll try it there first, and then I might have to load another 10 thousandths to get it to here, but right now I got it set where I wanted it at, and I'm going to take a couple, maybe about 20 thousandths off at a time, and work from there. Now what I'll do is I will figure out how much I need to come over on both sides, and then come each side over and take a cut off on both sides to get my 170 some thousandths I need. I think it's 175 thousandths I need. Okay, let's put it together and see what it looks like without the wheel, because the wheel's going to come up next. Alrighty, I'll do the rest of the 7, and then we'll start working on the wheels using some 3/8 inch rod and doing it on my lathe. Okay, now that I got all the slots done and all these here, I think before I do any kind of wheel work, I think the first thing I want to do is take my little needle files and things and start rounding over these edges and getting rid of these here square edges and start making it look more uniform now. I'll do some chamfering with my files, and I will try to get that to blend in to look more like a caster piece. So that's coming up next, hand filing. Okay, I got all my needle files going here, and here's a little bit of progress going on right here, right now. Here's the square side of it. That's one that's not been done yet. And this is one that's still in the process of being done. You see how it's getting a little more rounded over on the on this part back here. So what I'm doing is I'm using my needle files, and I have these here diamond ones here. They're called diamond riffle files, and I'm using those to scrape down this way here and getting that rounded over as best as I can. So you can see right there before and the after of when I'm starting to get it rounded over here. And I'll just continue on with that until I get that looking pretty good. Trying to get rid of that hard line. See if I can do this in the camera well. So I'm doing that. I start with using this here kind of file here. It doesn't have any, it's like I said, there's diamond files, so they have just grit on there. And so since there's no, like a file doesn't have any kind of a teeth set or anything on it, I can go back and forth in any direction I want to go with. So I start out by going like this first with it. And I get that there corner down, the square corner. Remember, we start with a square corner like this. And then I work that square corner down with this here file first and get that down to a roundness. And then I start using my needle files and just smooth out that corner to get it more rounded over. So that looks more like a one-piece casting and doesn't look like it's just been a square machine piece. It looks more like a casting of some sort that the manufacturer made it that way to give that kind of look to it. Okay, there's the before and the after. Square corners here, round it over here as much as possible. I'll put them together now and show what it looks like with the ball bearings. We have them all set up now. And the before and the after they're put together with the ball bearings. Of course I have to shorten the screw coming down here too, but I think that's the hand filing I'm going to do on these to make them look like that. Okay, I got all the profiles done now on all the casters here. I did all the handwork and everything as far as filing and getting it down to look more like a project piece here now. But that leaves me with something here with the wheel diameter now, so I'm going to show what I'm going to do here with the wheel diameter. In order to be able to do all the hand filing on this here, I had to leave the wheel flanges here thick. I cut a groove across here about 135 thousandths, 140 thousandths in width. That leaves a lot of meat on here that I can use, that I can be able to do all the filing and get everything shaped up, be able to hold it tight and things like that. But I want to get a thicker wheel in there now. So I want to bring these here down to about 1/16 of an inch now in thickness on these wheel flanges. And so I'll just go ahead and put this back in the my vise in the mill, and then I'll start taking these back and forth here inside here and take that down. Another thing I wanted to mention here is that I still have my reference surfaces on both sides of this. That was not touched with a file or anything, so I still have those reference surfaces that I can use to put back in my mill vise. And so that's what I'm going to do now. I'm going to enlarge now this here slot so I can take a bigger wheel diameter, or wheel thickness. Right now it's 140. I want to take it to about 170, roughly around 170 thousandths for wheel thickness. And so I'm going to increase this now. And that's what's coming up next. Okay, here we go. The right side, or I'm sorry, the left side is the one that has to be done. The right side is one I just finished, and it's a lot wider. And that does look a lot better with the thinner flanges for the wheel flanges. So I'm going to do the rest of them that same way. What I did is I touched off on one side until I got the one side down to about 65 thousandths. And then I touched off on the other side and got that down to 65 thousandths. And that pretty much got the opening to about 175 thousandths of an inch in width, and that looks a lot better now. Okay, now that I got everything all filed down and got everything shaped the way I want it, it's time now for the caster wheels. And I think I'll make that out of probably 3/8 inch thick, 3/8 inch diameter round rod. I need a thickness to about 170 thousandths roughly in that area there. And so I'll do that on my lathe and I'll get that set up now. Okay, using a 256 screw for the wheel, the wheel shaft. Let me get the diameter of the screw. And that'll be about 84 thousandths. Okay, so I'll drill a clearance hole about 84 thousandths in that range there. In that range to get a sliding fit. Let's see what drill bit I have. Okay, I don't have a bit that's the proper size to make a clearance hole for a 256 screw. So that works out okay, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to go with a bit that's smaller than this. The bit that I used to have is bit damaged. I had to get rid of it, and my bit collection is starting to go down a little bit. So, but I do have one that's the screw is about 84 thousandths in diameter, and this drill bit's around 81 thousandths. I use my micrometers to check that. So using a smaller bit, what I'll do is I'll pre-drill with a small bit first, and then after that I'll take a screw, cut the head off, and then use the screw itself in the drill chuck in the lathe, and then I will use that to ream the hole, and that would give me a hole almost the diameter of the screw itself. And by the screw being used as a drill bit, it will kind of deflect enough to give enough clearance that's necessary, yet it won't be too loose, but it won't be very tight either, because of using a screw as a drill bit to ream it. Okay, that's coming up next. Okay, that's good. The screw doesn't go in all the way. In fact, it doesn't go in at all. And so now what I'll do is I'll use one of these screws to ream it. Okay, I'll use one of my long ones here. I've got some nice small ones, medium size. I'll use a long one. And I'll put that in my vise. And then cut that off. Okay, that will be my threaded reamer. Put that in my tailstock here. Tighten that up, and we'll do the reamer. Okay, I got the screw inside the chuck here nice and tight. I think I'm going to leave this loose. I think I'm going to take it and slide the tailstock by hand to do the reaming instead of using the thing here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tighten this up right here. Make sure this is nice and loose here. It slides nicely. And let's see how that works. Slow it down a little bit here. Give it some juice. And let's see how it works. Oh yeah, that's working real good. Beautiful. Oh, I like it. Okay, the screw screwed itself in. I just took a pair of pliers and I just reversed it and got it back out. It actually screwed in there, but it actually threaded itself in there. The way I was pushing it in, I guess, kind of close to the thread pitch to cause this thing to thread itself in there. Well, that shows one way how you can thread a 256 screw, a thin screw, into aluminum bar stock without using gear ratios. Just push it in. But anyway, what I'm going to do is I'm going to push it in slow and back and forth so I can use the threads as the cutting teeth instead of threading in. So let's put this back in the chuck and do it again. Okay, round two. I'm going to put a little bit more thicker oil in this time. I'm going to put some cutting oil on this time instead of... there we go. Back and forth. Whoop, whoop, it's pulling itself in. Okay, it's pulling itself in, so I'm going to have to... Let me back it out first. Okay. I'm going to have to tighten down the tailstock and use the handle and use it as a drill instead of trying to push it in by hand. It's just working too much like a threading. It's threading itself in too much. Okay, let me get this here. So I have the tailstock tightened down real tight. I am going to run this with a handle. like doing if I was drilling it, and see how that works. A little bit of time. I'm actually trying to ream this now. Pull back out, go in a little bit, pull back out, and so on. The throw pulling itself in, it's jumping, and just pull back out. That's going to work real nice like that. Okay, to eliminate the jumping, what I did is I tightened this up just a little bit, so I can now take this in with a little bit of tightness on there, so I can actually control how that goes in there, and that the screw threads themselves don't pull themselves in, but rather it's got a little bit of tightness to it now. Pull it in and out. Okay. That's it right there. I can loosen this up now. Get it all the way out. Okay, now let's go ahead and take a test fit on this. 256 screw. And that goes in nice. That goes in real nice with very little play. Let me turn that down, see how that runs. Oh yeah, that's nice and straight. So that's going to look real nice. Very nice. It's trying to screw itself back in again a little bit. Okay. Okay, that's going to work good for the shafting. So that's how I'll do the reaming to get that to this screw diameter. Okay, that's going to work nice. Okay, what I'm going to do first to make these here wheels is I'm using my 60-degree threading here, and I'm going to use that there to do a little bit of a chamfer on the front of this. Then I have a gauge set up here that I can move it to the proper distance that I need. And then I'll use my cutoff tool that I will slide in here, do a little cut off here a little bit before I cut off completely. I'll put this back in again and do a little bit of more tapering on the other side, and then I'll cut the rest of the way back off again. And that'll be my procedure of how I'll make these here wheels. Let's start this up here, a little bit of tapering. Nice little taper there. Okay, what I'll do now is I'll take that off, slide in my cutoff tool holder. I have the tool holder here, the big tool holder here, I have that adjusted so that I can put both of these in and they will be lined up. The cutoff tool and the 60-degree threading tool will all be lined up, so I don't have to worry about changing that around. So now I put that in there, tighten that up. So what I will do now is I will bring this forward until I'm to the front there, and now I have that set up there. And now I can, okay, now with that set up nicely there, I have my dial set here. Got to get this here engaged. Okay, so now I'm going to come down that 170 thousandths right there. That's locked. I'll make sure that stays there. I will need to come down that also, that's 170 off of this edge here, so I need to come down further yet, which is the thickness of this. So let me get my calipers here, and that thickness is about 60 thousandths, so we'll go an additional 60, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, and that ends up being about 230 altogether. So what I can do now is I can start cutting this off right here, start it, and then again put this back in again, and do some more, little bit of bevel there, and then put this back in again and cut it completely off. And so let's do that. I'm trying to do all this here holding the camera in my hand here, so let's see how this works. Okay, so now I'll switch off and put this back in and do a little bit of chamfering. Okay, I have the cutter set up on the tool holder so that it will line right up to where it needs to be. And so now we'll do the chamfering here. Okay. Take that out. slide that back in there. Tighten it up. Finish putting it on. A little bit low center. There we go. Alright. And clean up the other side here a little bit. Clean up the little side here of the file, and we'll try it and see how that works as a wheel in the caster. Alrighty, let's see how that works in here now. This will use a 256 screw, and remember I threaded this on both ends of this here, so the screw will stay threaded on both parts of the wheel flange. And we'll see how that goes in there now. Screw it over here. Am I in focus, right? Remember, here's a frame right here. Okay. Okay, that's where I'm at. Okay. Alright, so now there's the roller. Can you see that? Yeah. Alright. Now let's go ahead and put this back together before the batteries start to go back on the camera again. Come on. Okay, here we go. Come on, back in frame right there. Ball bearings go in. Ball bearings go in. Come on. Come on. Try to put a ball bearing here. Come on. There you go. Back in frame. Alright. And right there. Alright, I'm still back in frame. Camera view. Let me get a nice screw here for 440. Before the camera batteries go out. Nice small 440 screw here someplace. Come on, here we go. Alright, still in frame. Here we go. Oops, wrong. A bit better than that. Come on. There we go. And go ahead and put it back together here. That turns. Let me loosen this up a little bit here. What I'll do is I will grind. What I'll do is I'll grind the top of the screws off here, and then I will Loctite them into the bottom here so that they work that way. But there is pretty much the finished caster right there. You can see all that in there. There's the wheel turning, and then this here turning on its flange. Okay, now I got all these here done with the wheels. I'm going to start now assemble them for good now. And the first thing I need to do is I need to put Loctite on the screw here thread that will go into the bottom part of this here, and that their screw will become the pivot point for this. So let me get my Loctite and get this together. Ready? I'll start out here by putting a little Loctite on this here threads here. Okay. Set that to the side here for a little bit. And put the ball bearings in here now. And now I take this and thread it onto there. And get it loose enough where it needs to swing properly. And then let it set for a little bit now. The Loctite. More yet. Okay, so that screw now will turn with this. That's what you want right there. The Loctite will now hold this screw tight to the bottom here, and it will pivot inside this here flange here, and that's what we want.